Hello, all you freedom-loving people. The FBI arrested 5 child predators from the 764 group. James Comer is closing in on Tim Walz for his part in the fraud. Jim Jordan is focused on Jack Smith. And Witkoff and Kushner are making progress in Moscow. Okay, let's get into it. Today, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer sent letters to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his Attorney General Keith Ellison as part of his investigation into widespread fraud in the social services programs of Minnesota. Comer wrote to Walz, "The committee has serious concerns about how you, as the governor and the Democrat-controlled administration, allowed millions of dollars to be stolen." Comer also said the committee also has concerns that you and your administration were fully aware of this fraud and chose not to act for fear of political retaliation. So Comer asked for documents and messages showing what Walz's administration knew about the fraud and whether they tried to slow down or stop the investigation. And in his letter to Ellison, Comer accused him of being caught on tape where he promised to help the fraudsters in the Feeding Our Future scheme. And he was caught on tape during a conversation that also touched on campaign donations from Somali community leaders. Comer also said that only days later, Ellison and his son accepted contributions from people who were part of that meeting. Comer said that based on these reports, the committee is worried that Ellison was negligent with taxpayer money that was later stolen. And Comer wrote that the stolen money was ultimately funneled to terrorist networks that were responsible for killing Americans. So Comer has asked Minnesota officials to hand over the records covering January 1st, 2019 to the present, with the deadline to submit the records being set for December 17th. Comer asked for the documents from the Department of Human Services and from the governor and lieutenant governor's offices related to the $1 billion in suspected COVID-era food aid fraud. The letter noted that the housing stabilization program allegedly took more than $104 million from taxpayers through fake homeless claims, and about $14 million was reportedly stolen from the state autism treatment funds. And the House Judiciary Committee is also looking into Jack Smith. Today, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan sent a subpoena to former special counsel Jack Smith for a deposition before the House panel. In the letter that was sent to Jack Smith, Jordan said that he needs Jack Smith to appear before the House committee on December 17th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jordan wrote, "Due to your service as special counsel, the committee believes that you possess information that is vital to its oversight of this matter. Based upon communications with your counsel, we understand that you are available to testify at a deposition on December 17th. The subpoena also included a request for communications and documents that are connected to Jack Smith's investigation as special counsel. In his first public remarks since leaving the government, Jack Smith told a panel that was hosted by former FBI counsel Andrew Wiseman that allegations against him are incorrect. Smith also claimed that people are attacking longtime DOJ officials just to score political points. In the meantime, the DOJ is busy taking down pedophile networks online. The Justice Department has indicted 5 men for running an online child exploitation enterprise, which is known as Greggy's Cult. Hector Bermudez, Zachary Doche, Romualdo Valdez, David Brulhanti, and Camden Rodriguez were all arrested yesterday throughout the United States. FBI Director Kash Patel said in a statement, "These 5 defendants allegedly targeted vulnerable children and others via online platforms. They exploited, threatened, and harassed them and encouraged horrific acts of self-harm. The group is accused of finding victims on gaming platforms, such as Discord, Roblox, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The indictment, which was unsealed yesterday, alleges that the group engaged in a criminal enterprise that pushed minor victims online to create child pornography and then blackmailed them into horrific acts of self-harm. Prosecutors also allege that the group carried out depraved conduct that included repeatedly encouraging victims to kill themselves or encouraging them to self-harm. And prosecutors allege that the group later helped create the global extremist network known as 764. The FBI now considers 764 to be a form of modern-day terrorism for its violent online abuse of minors. And according to the DOJ, members of Greggy's cult became prominent members of 764. Attorney General Pam Bondi said no child should ever be terrorized or exploited online, and no online platform should give refuge to predators. The Department of Justice will continue to protect children, support survivors, and hold accountable anyone who preys on the vulnerable online or offline with every tool we have. Michael Dell, the founder and CEO of Dell Technologies, and his wife Susan Dell announced yesterday that they have pledged to donate $6.25 billion to seed investment accounts for 25 million American children. This is the largest single charity donation for children in American history. This donation is in support of the Trump accounts that were established by the federal government. Trump accounts are a new type of investment account that were established by the U.S. federal government for children. All babies born in the United States between 2025 and 2028 will receive this generous gift from President Trump and Congress. Each eligible baby will receive $1,000 in seed funding. The Dell couple's substantial donation will bridge the funding gap for the program. They have pledged to provide an initial $250 for every child born before January 1st, 2025, who is 10 years old or younger. This pledged funding will cover 25 million children aged 10 and under residing in zip code areas where the median household income is below $150,000. The Dells aim to assist children who have not benefited from government-funded programs. Their motivation is to ensure that every child can reap the rewards of early investment. The Dell said in a statement, children older than 10 may benefit too if funds remain available after initial signups. The Dell said that they hope their gift will encourage families to deposit more money into the Trump accounts so they can grow over time. The Dell said, "We know that this program will give young Americans more than a savings account. It will give them momentum. It will give them confidence and opportunity."
We know that when kids have accounts like this, they're way more likely to graduate from high school, to go on to college and graduate, to, buy a home and be successful adults that participate in our economy. And so we're super excited about this. And I've spoken with other philanthropists, and I'm confident that we'll see some other major gifts, maybe not exactly designed the way ours is, but we know that this is a platform now for companies to contribute and match the government's contribution. Certainly that's something Dell and many other companies have already said that we're going to do. Families can contribute, friends, and of course, communities, other philanthropists.
President Trump wrote in a Truth Social post reacting to the Dell's announcement, "Two great people, I love Dell." In announcing the gift by the Dells at the White House meeting yesterday, President Trump said that this gift is a big step forward.
Well, I think they can learn a little bit about the free enterprise system, they can really learn a lot about how life works, how business works. They want to go out and make a living for themselves, because maybe it's going to be a lot more than we think, or maybe it's not going to be quite as much as we think, depending on what happens with the world and the market. We'll try and do very well in that regard too, but there's a lot of learning to be done, and I think this is a big step forward.
In his remarks at the White House, Michael Dell explained what inspired him to make this gift.
When I was 8 years old, I got a passbook savings account, and I had, I think, about $8 in it. And you go to the savings and loan, and you give them a quarter, and they'd stamp your account. And I got to see the power of compound interest early in my life. And that has brought me here to this moment, and hopefully will inspire that kind of opportunity for many more young people in this country.
The Trump account is a custodial IRA and is scheduled to launch on July 4th next year. It allows family members, employers, state governments, nonprofit organizations, and philanthropists to contribute to the account with an annual limit typically set at $5,000. Although the detailed rules have not yet been fully announced, the currently known information is as follows. All accounts are professionally managed and invested in diversified index funds that are designed to grow over time. However, investments in individual stocks, bonds, cryptocurrencies, or other high-risk assets are not permitted. Children born in the United States after 2028 will also be eligible for the Trump account. However, they will not receive the $1,000 seed money provided by the government. Charles Schwab estimates that starting with the government's $1,000 seed money and adding up to $5,000 annually from parents, a child's Trump account could accumulate $191,035 by age 18. If not withdrawn early, the potential retirement balance could reach $2.2 million by age 60. Of course, this figure is merely an estimate under ideal conditions, and it does not guarantee that it will be achieved. Current U.S. tax law provides at least 11 tax advantage savings options, each with distinct rules, limitations, and regulations. Depending on individual circumstances, a Trump account may not always be the optimal choice, though. The Tax Foundation states that, for example, 529 educational savings accounts offer greater flexibility and more tax advantages for the purpose of funding a child's education. Unlike the 529 education savings plans, contributions to a Trump account are after-tax funds and are taxable upon withdrawal. Furthermore, some investment earnings are subject to ordinary income tax rates. The benefit of the Trump account is that this program delivers compound interest, which is a wealth accelerator understood by the wealthy, and the compound interest is put directly into the hands of American newborns. Supporters hope that this initiative will enable an entire generation of children to learn financial management from a young age so that they will naturally develop a wealth mindset as they grow up. Brooke Rollins, the U.S. Agriculture Secretary, warns states that continue to refuse to submit SNAP data that they will lose administrative funding for the program. At a cabinet meeting held at the White House yesterday, Rollins specifically highlighted Democrat-led blue states such as California, New York, and Minnesota. She threatened to cut off federal funding to those blue states because they refuse to share SNAP program data. Rollins said that her department needs the state-by-state data on SNAP to root out this fraud and to protect the American taxpayer. Rollins stated that the U.S. Department of Agriculture first requested in February this year that all 50 states submit their SNAP data to the federal government. 29 Republican-governed red states complied with the request, but 21 blue states refused to comply so far. Democrat-ruled states opposed the Department of Agriculture collecting data on food stamp program recipients, including their immigration status and social security numbers, calling it an illegal invasion of privacy. Although SNAP benefits are funded by the federal government, they are administered by the states, which maintain beneficiary records. And the Department of Agriculture shares the program's administrative costs with the states. In July, 22 Democratic governors and the District of Columbia sued the Department of Agriculture over data requirements. And in October, a federal district judge ruled that the USDA cannot withhold SNAP funding from the states that fail to submit data. However, officials from the Department of Agriculture stated that they would withhold SNAP administrative funds from the states that failed to comply with data requirements rather than directly withhold benefits from SNAP recipients. Since President Trump returned to the White House, his staunch supporters have begun promoting the Trump 2028 slogan, hoping that he'll run for president again. And President Trump himself has consistently vacillated on this issue, offering vague and ambiguous statements, then occasionally flashing a Trump 2028 cap. But This has led some of his opponents to accuse him of aspiring to become a dictator and to maintain long-term control of the presidency. But at yesterday's cabinet meeting, President Trump explicitly ruled out the possibility of running for re-election for the first time. When he talks about the next presidential race, he is confident that Republicans will be in a much better position than Democrats. President Trump said, "It's not going to be me. It's going to be somebody that's probably sitting at this table. It could be a couple of people sitting at this table, could be a couple of people running together sitting at this table." Others seated at the cabinet table included Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Before numerous mainstream media outlets claimed that President Trump dozed off during a cabinet meeting, suggesting that he's running low on energy, the White House released the results of President Trump's cardiovascular and abdominal imaging exams. Physicians stated that the exam results showed that President Trump remains in excellent health. The New York Post reported yesterday that, according to White House logs of the Oval Office, the president has been working up to 12 hours a day this month. During the 10 working days from November 12th to November 25th, President Trump worked approximately 50 hours per week, excluding any official duties performed on the weekends. President Trump proclaimed his mental and physical health, saying, "I think I'm sharper than I was 25 years ago." Also yesterday, President Trump once again doubled down that he would fully and completely terminate any documents signed by President Biden's Autopen, including pardons and commutations. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Any and all documents, proclamations, executive orders, memorandums, or contracts signed by order of the now infamous and unauthorized Autopen within the administration of Joseph R. Biden Jr. are hereby null, void, and of no further force or effect. Anyone receiving pardons, commutations, or any other legal document so signed, please be advised that said document has been fully and completely terminated and is of no legal effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter." President Trump does not believe that the documents signed by the Autopen represent President Biden's views. On the wall of the White House, a photograph of an Autopen has replaced what should have been the portrait of President Biden. President Trump wrote last week, "The radical left lunatics circling Biden around the beautiful Resolute desk in the Oval Office took the presidency away from him." In the same post, President Trump said that 92% of Biden's documents were signed with the Autopen device. Fox News Digital has confirmed that among the pardons signed by President Biden, the document pardoning his son Hunter Biden was hand-signed by the former president. However, the pardons for Dr. Anthony Fauci and Biden's brother James Biden were both signed using an Autopen. Also on the alleged Autopen pardon list, as part of a more than 1,500-person spree of pardons near the end of Biden's term, include General Mark Milley and members and staff of the House committee investigating January 6. At yesterday's cabinet meeting, President Trump once again stated that the United States would no longer provide financial assistance to Ukraine, while European nations would purchase military equipment from the U.S. at full price and then ship it to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the U.S. delegation was in Moscow to explore the possibility of a ceasefire. Yesterday, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. The Russian delegation included Vladimir Putin advisor Yuri Ushakov and Kirill Dmitriev, who is Putin's special envoy and head of the Russian Direct Investment Fund. During the meeting, the American envoys presented Putin with the latest of Washington's peace plan. The talk lasted 5 hours and concluded roughly 30 minutes after midnight. Speaking at a briefing in the Kremlin after the meeting, Yuri Ushakov told reporters that the meeting was constructive, but he said compromises have not yet been found. There is still a lot of work to be done. Ushakov also confirmed that Moscow had received 4 additional documents beyond the Trump administration's original 28-point plan. Ushakov said, Some American proposals are acceptable to the Russian Federation and some are not. According to Ushakov, the two sides discussed Ukraine's territorial concessions and economic cooperation between Russia and the United States. Just hours before Putin and U.S. representatives held crucial talks, the Kremlin reiterated that any peace agreement must address the root causes or initial reasons for prompting Russia to attack Ukraine. Putin has repeatedly stated that he will not allow Ukraine to join NATO nor permit NATO to expand eastward. Yesterday, Putin also accused Ukraine's European allies of undermining the U.S.-led peace efforts by proposing solutions that they knew Russia would absolutely never accept. Putin also warned that Russia is prepared to defend itself if Europe pushes too hard. Putin said, "We're not going to fight Europe. I have said this 100 times, but if Europe suddenly wants to fight and starts, we are ready right now." And today, NATO foreign ministers gathered in Brussels for a meeting to discuss the alliance's support for the Ukraine and U.S. draft proposals. Before the meeting, and in response to Putin's comments, NATO chief Mark Rutte insisted that the peace talks are ongoing, but he did admit by saying that we are not sure when they will end, and so the alliance should be ready to keep supporting Ukraine to fight back against the Russians.
To these threats?
I'm not going to react to everything Putin is saying. We have seen him in military clothes, dressed like a soldier at the front, but not at the front. It was quite far from the front the day before yesterday. So no, I'm not going to react to everything.
New pledges by Norway, the Netherlands, Germany.
Yeah, so that's really great news. So a lot of pledges have come in, and I hope I can make a few announcements later today. Pledges made today. And when you look at the overall numbers, as I said yesterday, we are now at 4 billion. So that means we are really on track for the 1 billion a month, August, September, October, November. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we will reach the 5 billion for the full year. And then for next year, we need for the full year, again, a lot of money, at least 1 billion, maybe even a little bit more than 1 billion a month. It might be around 50, maybe a little bit more for the whole year. When it comes to this crucial US gear, so this is offensive and defensive, including interceptors for the air defense systems, crucial to keep Ukrainian civilians and civilian infrastructure safe. So it is really good that this flow is there, that Europeans are stepping up, and Canada, by the way, also doing a lot here. So really, really glad that this is working.
Russian missiles keep causing death and destruction, and winter is here. Ukraine needs our support more than ever. We all want the bloodshed to stop, and I strongly welcome President Trump's continued efforts to end this war.
And today, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denied the news that Putin rejected the U.S. plan. Peskov insisted that Putin had not rejected any proposals, but merely some things were accepted, some things were marked as unacceptable. This is a normal working process of finding a compromise. Meanwhile, yesterday, European Union lawmakers in member states reached a deal to ban all imports of Russian gas by autumn 2027. Under the deal, long-term pipeline contracts will be banned starting September 30th, 2027 if storage levels are sufficient, or in any case no later than November 1st, 2027. And last night, the EU Energy Commissioner wrote on X, "We've made it. Europe is turning off the tap on Russian gas forever." And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.